Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Conjure Elemental.
Cool, right? Elemental, summon an
Yeah.
air elemental, or a water elemental, or fire elemental, or earth elemental. This is an aggressively fair conjuration spell, which is wild as far as like the conjures go. This is probably the most fair of them ever printed, to the point that's almost like a detriment to it. It's
I
a
like
fifth
it.
level. Go for it.
I just said I like it. I'll get into why. Go ahead.
Fifth level conjuration spell, cast time of a minute. So that's kind of annoying. Duration of an hour, range 90 foot, verbal somatic material components. You call forth an elemental servant. Choose an area of earth, fire, air, or water that fills a 10-foot cube within range. An elemental of challenge rating 5 or lower, appropriate to the area you chose, appears in an unoccupied space within 10 feet of it. For example, a fire elemental emerges from the bonfire, earth elemental from the ground. The elemental disappears when it drops to 0 hit points or when the spell ends. Concentration up to an hour, remember. The elemental is friendly to you and your companions for the duration. Roll initiative for it. It acts on its own turns, obeys your verbal components. It does all the conjuration stuff. If you don't issue any verbal commands, it defends itself, but otherwise takes no actions. If your concentration is broken, the elemental doesn't disappear. Instead, you lose control of it, and it becomes hostile to you and your friends. It might attack. An uncontrolled elemental cannot be dismissed by you, and it disappears 1 hour after you summoned it. So if you conjure this thing, get a rock to the head within 3 seconds, the fire elemental just turns around and goes, all right, guess you're going to have a bad time now. Which is, I think, personally very fun, but also can be very frustrating. Additionally, since the GM has the statistics at higher levels, the CR floor goes up by 1, or CR ceiling goes up by 1. So if you cast this as a 6th level spell, you get a CR 6 or lower. Basically, the spell level CR monster or lower is what you always get. My initial problem with the spell is that it is ultimately up to the DM as to whether or not this is even usable. If you ever cast the spell in an area of fire and get a smoke method, yeah.
So go to a different table.
Yeah, that's it's a reason to have a conversation with your DM about this spell before you cast it and take it, to be like, how exactly do you want this to work? Because what the spell to me should read as, you get an air, earth, fire, or water elemental, period. It doesn't need to do anything else. The Zorns are cute, the Salamanders are cute. You never want to get anything worse than that. If you're ever getting a CR2 creature, CR1 half creature, CR1 quarter creature, you're getting a raw deal. The difference between an Aether and an Earth Elemental is sitting at 126 HP, and Aether is sitting at 40. An Earth Elemental does a lot of stuff that the lower tier stuff just can't. So your floor on the CR5s, very high. Your floor on the lower ones, very low. You cannot get the lower tier ones and ever be happy with this cast, especially because all of them can be gotten with Conjure Minor Elementals, and it can just do that guaranteed. You can say, I want a CR2, and you always get an Aether. You should never pick Aether, because all of the lower multiples are better. Like, this spell is worse than Conjure Minor Elementals when you're getting bulks of methods and whatnot, even at their relative levels. Even a level 4 Conjure Elementals versus level 5 Summon Elemental, or Conjure Elemental, I'll take Conjure Minor Elementals every single time, because, 8 to 16 methods is outrageous. Still, if you want a big elemental, this spell should give you that. If it's that good, I don't know. How good do you think it is, Bob?
All right. Well, I forgot about the 1 minute cast time. I like it a little bit less now.
Fair.
Yeah, that's, man, I'm any conjuring spells, I'm thinking I want to use this in combat. That takes a real bite out of that.
I mean, it lasts an hour, so this is a pretty easy thing to prep prior, right? You're going into the dungeon, you go, okay, great, give me an Earth Elemental,
That's
and it
true,
wanders around with you.
All right.
The duration
so,
is definitely to its credit.
Yes. But yeah, the reason I like it is because you can drop concentration and it's hostile towards you. It might attack you, but if you send it into the enemy flanks first, then drop concentration, then cast Conjure Minor Elementals, then it's going to defend itself. It's got a bunch of, your enemies don't know it's hostile to you. They just see this big fireman walking around, and it has attacked them already.
And it's conceivably getting attacked by them, too.
Yeah, and then you've got an army of methods following and after, which you can concentrate on now.
It's true.
Good times.
there are some little caveats to that are going to vary based off of your DM and the circumstances, right? So, like, let's say you send your fire elemental in to go kill all of the little undead zombie dwarves or whatever in the mines, and you go, okay, great. It's killing them now. It's probably not going to turn around. I break concentration for this spell. Breaking concentration by any means does release it, like Bob says. So, like, if you break concentration, cast a new spell, it sticks around. It's here for the hour duration. It's going to start killing things. If it is particularly petty, it might go, how dare you turn right back around, take the attacks opportunity, and sprint you down. That can be a thing that happens. Whether or not your DM, it's going to be depends on how your DM rules it, depends on how, like, the existence of elementals sort of, what is their mentality? What is their mindset? Are they more humanoid with emotions and feelings and stuff? Are they just raw, closer to like storms that are just conjured into existence and happen to have humanoid faces sometimes, right? How your DM approaches that is going to vary. How intelligent they are and what they decide to do, even regardless of their stat block, is going to wildly vary DM to DM. But you are going to get some very memorable moments when you choose to break concentration on this. Something is going to happen. It's going to be bad for somebody, and it's going to be fun for you.
I agree. I will roll those dice and live with the consequences. And yeah.
I think this spell is really, really maimed by there now being the summon spells that just are a cleaner and no hassle version of this. So the summon spells from Toss Cauldron and everything, Summon Elemental is, I think, both one of our least favorites of the bunch, in that the elementals you get don't get to do the elemental stuff that you want your air elemental to do. They don't get to do the stuff that you want your water elemental to do. Whelm is a big part of what a water elemental does, sucking things in, spinning them around, whacking them with his big watery fists. That's very what you want a water elemental to do. Summon Elemental doesn't have that. Summon Elemental lacks a lot of the flavor, a lot of the punch, a lot of the interesting and engaging stuff you want out of your elementals, right? At the same time, you don't have to worry about what pops out of that. You don't ever have to ask your DM, hey, if I cast this spell, will you screw me? And that's a conversation that, like, if you don't want to have that conversation, it's really easy to take the summon spells and makes the spell feel kind of clunky. And in the world where the summon spells didn't exist, you were never casting this anyway, because Conjure Minor Elementals was so much better, because you got to pick finitely what you got as far as CR range was, which means you could narrowly decide, worst case scenario, I'm getting a bunch of explosive magma to blow up some things. Best case scenario, I'm getting some sweet-ass methods that'll fly around with their breath weapons and do more cool utility stuff. There was always a better option than this, which leaves it as a spot to be talk to your DMs beforehand, or just know your DM well enough to be like, they'll always give me one of those elementals, right? And then you can kind of like shape it to make sure, like, I'm always getting an air elemental, or I'm always getting an earth elemental. And in that case, it's fine. I love that it can beat you up. All of these are hindrances to it that I think make it ultimately not that castable and not that good. At the same time, it is very fun. I think this is one of the more untamed elemental summoning stuff. This is like the demon summoning stuff that they're not friendly to you even when you summon them. Sometimes you need a circle to even talk to them. And if you don't have that or something goes wrong, they actively and aggressively try to kill you. Or even whenever things go right, they still try to actively and aggressively kill you by just circumnavigating, like, oops, I didn't mean to cut this rope bridge, but here we are. Yeah. You're going to get those kind of circumstances that I personally think can be very fun and rewarding. This feels very, like, deeply, richly magical. It just has a little bit too much variance and a little bit too much awkwardness for me to ever consider it over the more busted stuff or the more streamlined stuff.
Yeah, well, I like it primarily because it's a concentration spell that you can break and still use while
that's a really
another
cool
one
point.
going.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of spells that do that. That fun little utility of, I mean, if it's angry at other things too, maybe I don't have to worry about the fire elemental, and that's a pretty cool upside. It's
well,
this.
I mean, this also says, it's what does it say? It says it's hostile to you and it might attack. I mean,
That's true.
It's kind of on the fence, even if it's not being murdered by a bunch of other things.
I don't know how true that is. I think it might attack. It might come down to like how intimidating of a force you and your party are, right? It's more of does it feel like is it feeling threatened? Is it feeling like it's been put into a dangerous situation? Or does it feel like, more realistically, it has a chance of siding with the other group, right? If you're fighting against elementals and you conjure an elemental, you lose concentration on it, it might go, brethren, and turn right on you and start punching the crap out of you. So it's definitely not
something that could happen.
Yeah. There will be instances where another spellcaster will go, that was the creature that created you, minions stop attacking it, and minions will lay off it, and it will go, whoa, then it'll turn back and see it, the creator that, throw concentration on it, and now you're in a pickle. At the same time, you might be against a bunch of ogres that might be too dumb, or, an owlbear or bear or two, and they're not going to stop attacking the fire elemental, and it's going to keep fighting it right back. It's going to vary based on circumstances, and I think it definitely makes the spell a lot more interesting. The spell is deeply flavorful, and it's deeply fun. I don't know if I'm ever casting it, but it is both of those categories for sure.
Yeah. Anything else to say about it? I mean, it feels like we've barely scratched the surface, but
don't ever listen. The big thing is it's one of the 4 main elementals, and those are fun. I think it's really cool that it asks you to like have a thing of earth, have a thing of fire, point at the air, right? Those are sort of your requirements for getting these varying things. It's going to be a real situation where it's not always going to be given you have access to a water elemental. It's not always going to be given you have access to a fire elemental. I like that a lot. I think that this makes it feel like you're using the elements to create the thing that you want. I hate that your DM can go, actually, you get a steam method, and you point at the water instead of a water elemental. That's stupid. It probably shouldn't be the case. At the same time,
definitely shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, I think this should just say you get an elemental of CR5.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to say or lower. And if I were a DM, that's absolutely how I'd rule it, at least. I think with some edits, I'm really hoping in the next like D&D 1, this shapes up to be exactly what we're talking about, where it's the uncontrolled, untamed fun of the elemental, but none of the little logistical jump ropes that you have to, or hoops to jump through.
No.
Yeah, I don't want to have to deal with any of that. If we get these updates, and if it ends up letting you do those things, I think it's way cooler. Summon elemental existing makes me think that's not going to happen. I have a hunch it's going to be a really bland, this is a series of attack rolls with some varying speeds, and that's not what I want my elemental to be. I want to care about using the fire. I want to care about, we need to go find a pool of water so I can raise this elemental here. This feels richly magical. It feels like there are little bits of things that you have to sort of coalesce together, minimum viable product for getting a spell to feel like it's magic. This meets that prerequisite, and most spells in D&D don't. I like that a lot. I hope that it sticks around. I'm skeptical that it will.
Yeah, one last thing about the CR thing. I think if your DM is the sort of person that's going to give you the steam method, you're going to know this by the time you get 5th level spells.
Yeah, you should. At the same time,
or you will have gone to a different table.
Yeah. You never really want to get salamanders over fire elementals. You will occasionally want Zorns over earth elementals, and those two are sort of the overlapping ones, right? As far as the CR5 goes. Every new book that prints more elementals does make the pool hypothetically larger. So if your DM is ever doing things, like if you know your DM likes variance and randomness, that spell is also very dangerous, because they might go, anything CR5 or lower, let's roll a die and figure it out. That can be fun. It also can be demoralizing. So, there will be even people with good intentions that will make the spell wildly worse than it has any right to be. Even whenever it's cast fairly, I think this is a side grade to most of the Tasha spells. It does help that these things have huge hit points. These things are rocking like 100 hit points. But the downside of losing concentration on this, and they might just kick the crap out of you, is a really high downside. So I think this is how I want summoning magic to be balanced, more so than just they're always your buddy and there's no problems and there are a series of attack rolls that are simplified. I think this is the more interesting direction to go. I'd like to do more of these, please, wizards. They're not going to. The viewers at home, I think you should try casting this, even though I'm not going to, because I think this is a fun spell. I just, I don't like the inconsistency.
I kind of do. I'll probably be casting this one.
Sweet.
All right. Do you have a rating?
It's still a summoning spell, and summoning spells are going to be powerful. I think the only thing that knocks it down from a 4 is that you can get randomly screwed for no reason. If you couldn't get randomly screwed for no reason, this is an easy 4 right alongside all those summon spells from Tasha's. Because this is definitely worse than those, this is a 3. It's still going to be reasonable. Even if you get a Dust Mesvet or Gargoyle, you're still summoning a creature with its extra action, with its extra all of the stuff you'd want out of a summoning spell most of the time anyway. So it still will be an hour-long utility companion that'll obey your commands, that'll do all of your things. It'll be a lot worse in combat, but most of the time it's not going to be a lot worse in combat, and that makes it, I think, a reasonable 3 out of 5. It's probably the worst of the summoning stuff, and that's a ringing endorsement for summoning stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, because of the summoning stuff and the conjuring stuff, the other conjuring stuff, yeah, I wasn't even approaching 4. I was going to give it a 3, even though I clearly like it better than you do. But yeah, 3 it is. All right, that was Conjure Elemental. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. Let us know what you think about this spell in the comments below, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it, a gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.